Halcyon loader. Got no people skills, but he's good with motors. That weird thing by his side, an infantilized sequoia. The two of them walk by, people say, oh boy. They ask me why I'm bringing a baby into battle. That's really irresponsible and getting them rattled. I say, give me a break. Get off of my back, damn it. I didn't learn parenting. My daddy was a planet.
Stardew Hustle Proud, Stardew Hustle Proud. Hey, Stardew Hustle Proud, Stardew Hustle Proud. Hey.
In these times of hardship, just remember, we are Groot.
Now you might pray to God, y'all, but I like Lucifer best of all.
Keep changing, waiting. Keep changing, waiting.
Sunday school is a place for fools. It's hot in hell, but the devil's cool.
Don't keep changing, waiting. Don't keep changing, waiting.
So don't just sit there, join the club. Sell your soul to Beelzebub.
Hey, everybody. It is I, Count Jackula, your favorite satanic streamer, and the sin is in. How is everyone today? Hey, Coyote and Noel, awoo. And hey, Michael McNally. Let's see. May the evil one serve you well. Yes. Yes. Oh, man. Finally got my car back today. I had to have a friend store it while I was in the hospital in January. So did that. As you can see, we also have a studio audience. Because I'm a big scary guy who sleeps with stuffed animals. Because I have the heart of a 14-year-old girl in my closet. Just the heart, though. Not the rest of the 14-year-old girl. That would be weird. Oh, man. So today, sex is on my mind. Hey, Flashman, how you doing? Will I ever do more horror movie reviews? Only the future knows. Only time will tell. Because like I said, right now, my big creative focus is the game I'm working on, Babylon. A game where you play a monster in the modern world trying to defend your civilization of sin against evil angels in a modern world gone mad. So mad that it requires monsters and demons to set it right. Oh, Joseph, your cat wants me to know meow. That's important information. That is important information. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, it's Flashman. You just got the last component for your PC? Excellent. Oh, you just ordered it. That's still awesome. Ready to play it when it comes out? Well, we'll be hitting a milestone on that soon. The end of the manuscript is in sight, and the editing is already well underway. So the plan is to build up the Kickstarter while we're doing the editing, since the editing doesn't necessarily take that long. Let's see what's left to do. There are a couple of classes that need to be finished. There are 2 classes that need finishing before the next round of test. Some setting information needs to be put in, and the Game Master section needs to be finished. I should probably give the bestiary another go over as well. Just to make sure all the stats are there, because there are a lot of things that, like, the bestiary section is huge at the moment. So what we'll probably do is we'll probably cut a bunch of them, save them for another book. Might even be the second book, since majority of it is already written. And there's because we got there are a lot of pages of monsters, like monsters that you will encounter and fight. Yeah, I am also really interested in the Deadpool movie. Looking forward to it. I'm hoping it's still a hard R. I really, really am, because I'm like, nah, man. I'm also kind of hoping that what the plot is, because they haven't actually told us much about the plot other than it's going to have Wolverine in it. And that Deadpool is being shanghaied by the TVA, which is something that happened in the comic. But the reason that happened in the comic was all the alternate Deadpools are trying to kill OG Deadpool. And so the TVA hires OG Deadpool to kill all the variants. So it's like, in the comic, there was like this event that was kind of like Into the Spider-Verse, but it was violent. It was violent, and he just killed people. He was killing himself constantly. I'm hoping they do that, because that story's wild. Yeah, it's definitely a multiverse plot with that Deadpool 3. So I am looking forward to it quite a lot. One of the things, but back on the Babylon thing, one of the things that I'm hoping that we can get right, because it's really important. It's really important to me. We might see Pandapool. I don't think we'll see Galactuspool. Because in order for that to work in the Marvel universe, they would kind of have to set him up. They would have to have set up Galactus. They would have to make sure that everyone knew who Galactus is. Which they probably will, since they're doing Fantastic Four. Like, it would make sense in Fantastic Four to, obviously the first bad guy is going to be Doctor Doom. Like, you got to do Fantastic Four. You have to have Doctor Doom. Which I'm really looking forward to. Because I'm suspecting that what the plan is, you got the Fantastic Four movie. They're going to introduce Doctor Doom, and then Doctor Doom is going to move forward into the next 2 phases of the Marvel movies. Like, he's going to come into conflict with fucking Kang, whoever they're going to get to play Kang, I don't know. And after they introduce Doom, they're almost certainly going to involve him in Secret Wars because he was huge in Secret Wars too. You know, and if I know how the Marvel does it, they're gonna combine the two Secret Wars. You know, because they're still doing the Kang Dynasty. You know, we're obviously also getting ready to fully introduce the X-Men, which could be super cool. Looking forward to it. I'm glad that we're getting Hugh Jackman back for at least one more story. I'm hoping they just keep him as Wolverine. Wolverine's just older. Because I think that'd be fine. And eventually, obviously, those things are going to clash. Like, will the X-Men enter the prime Marvel Cinematic Universe? You know, the Avengers universe, and the answer is almost certainly. But what they'll do is, obviously, the X-Men are going to be from another universe, and it's going to be like, basically, they'll introduce the X-Men, and then they'll have the mutant panic. Because, like, so many, I mean, the mutant panic is such a big part of the Marvel universe that, like, they're gonna bring it in. You know, it probably won't be as nasty as it was in the Sony movies. You know, but it will be nasty. You know, I don't expect them to do God Loves Man Kills. Like, I don't expect them to go that far. Although, it'd be pretty awesome. It would be pretty awesome. The one thing I'm pretty sure of is that they're probably going to get another black guy to play Kang. Probably, what's it? Jesus. The guy that was in Candyman. The guy that was in the new Candyman. They'll probably get someone like him. You know, someone who's recognizable, but hasn't been in the Marvel Universe yet. And while I kind of like, while I don't mind Shuri as like Black Panther, I kind of wish they had resurrected and redeemed Killmonger. You know, have a Black Panther that's a bit more conflicted. You know, I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, like Chadwick Boseman'd still be with us and he'd still be playing it, but we don't live in a perfect world. The one thing I thought was weird about the X-Men 90s trailer was, I don't know why they ended on Wolverine talking if he wasn't going to sound like he did in the 90s. Unless is he voiced by Hugh Jackman? Like, is that the idea? Like, is the idea that they're actually being voiced by the people who played the characters in the movies? Like, because if that's the idea, then the Wolverine voice being different is fine. But if it's not, I don't know why they did that. Yeah. They did that with a What If with Killmonger. It's like, no, do that. Make him a hero. You know? You know, like the main problem that I had with losing the thing that I Shuri does not necessarily strike the same Black Power note as a male Black Panther does right now. They could, you know, like there was just something about Killmonger saying the two lines which I thought were brilliant Killmonger lines, brilliant lines for that version of the character. One being, you know, can you believe that? Kid from Oakland believing in fairy tales. Like, I heard that. I was like, oh, ow. Oh, I felt that. You're like, oh, this is what this is about. I mean, it should have been obvious, but like, if you didn't get it then, you should have gotten it. If you didn't get it before then, you should have gotten it at that point. And the thing at the end was like, no, I'm not going in chains. If you're going to kill me, just put me in the ocean so I can be with the ancestors. And I was like, ooh, ow, ooh, ouch, damn. Because it was like, no, there's something redeemable about Killmonger. He's redeemable, but he's not like, you know, we haven't had a good like villain to hero redemption arc in the Marvel Universe yet. You know, at least not one that didn't end up with the guy dying at the end. So I thought that would have been a cool thing to have. And then when you do, you know, because I was like, because if you want to bring Shuri in, she, like, you flip the table a little bit, which is Shuri's against him. Like, it's like she also becomes a Black Panther, but like her thing is like basically you tried to kill my brother. With that said, in Wakanda Forever, like having Killmonger be the ancestor that she sees, I thought was brilliant. Like that was a good move. Ah, but that's not what I came to talk about today. You know, I came to talk about togetherness, loneliness, acceptance. Came here to talk about the shifting attitudes surrounding sex, particularly among, you know, the younger generations. You know, more Gen Z than millennial, but still, which is I've come to understand that for most people, like, unless you have specific, you know, sexual assault trauma, it's really about an unfamiliarity and an anxiety surrounding intimacy. you know, because sex is about like closeness and vulnerability when you kind of get right down to it. You know, that is what it is. That's one of its emotional and spiritual functions, you know, to create intimacy. And I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that that extends even into what we refer to as platonic relationships. You know, because the tendency of a defense mechanism is to pile it on. You know, because there are parts of your brain that don't understand the difference between intimacy through intercourse and intimacy through friendship. Like there's a part of your head that doesn't really understand the difference. It just knows that it feels anxious. It just knows that something is uncomfortable. And so it starts kicking into gear. It's also not an accident. It's not a coincidence that people who have sex become more charismatic, become more charming. It's because you've kind of faced that chapel perilous, that obstacle, and gone right through it. And so there are a lot of other forms of intimacy that you're just sort of like, well, that's not, I just did the scariest one. I just did the one that was really scary. So what else can it throw at me? You know, how bad is the other stuff really going to be if that's the one I was most afraid of? And I think there are a lot of things that are getting in the way of it right now. Can't discount the effect that COVID had on public gathering or mass gathering. You know, that had a really bad effect on mass gathering, particularly among the survivors. That can't be discounted. You know, 1 million people disappear from the population over the course of a year. Like that leaves a scar. You know, that's going to leave a trauma point. Another being that I think that the internet kind of interrupts natural attraction. And I mean attraction in both the erotic and platonic sense. Like, for example, one of the problems of the parasocial relationship is you may know me, but I don't necessarily know you. And and no more is that more obvious than when I meet a fan in public. Because chances are I've never seen them. You know, Flashman, he had seen my stuff, but we became friends through a mutual friend. You know, we had mutual friends and we both live in Northern California. So he was like, oh, wait, you know, like it was one of those like, you know, his friend introduced us and he was like, wait a minute, aren't you like, don't you do an internet show about horror movies? And it was like, yeah. He's like, I'm Flashman. And it was like, oh, okay. And now we know each other. Like, so it's not like it can't happen, but it's not instant. It's harder. There's a time delay. There could be a time delay. And also the chances of me meeting everyone who likes my videos is basically zero. That's not going to happen. Just law of physics, laws of physics and time. So imagine what that's like when most of the people that you should know more personally, given what they have shown you, have no idea who you are. Not because they're stuck up, not because they're shallow, just because they literally have never laid eyes on you. And that's the situation a lot of people are in, particularly a lot of younger people. Also, there's a lot of really bad advice out there on how to meet people. And I'm not just talking about like the pickup artist shit. Like, that's the worst of the worst. But there are other things that seem more reasonable if you don't know better that create a problem. One is the fear of talking to people in public. I don't mean public speaking. I don't mean like you're on a podium and you're giving a, whatever. Everyone's afraid of that. Everybody. Everyone's afraid of that until they aren't. Everybody. Hey, John Smith. Hey, Spooky Artist. But for example, like, I've been told by more than one person younger than I that they're afraid to talk to people in public because they think it's rude. And I'm like, what? Well, like, you're not telling them to like fuck off or insulting them. It's just hello. It's like, yeah, that's rude. What? And it manifests in other ways, which I think is interesting. One is knocking on a door or actually having a voice conversation on this. I mean, I understand texting. It is easier. Once you get used to using your thumb to type, it's a lot easier. And also it's more permanent, so the person can respond in their own time. But that goes back to the response delay that I was talking about a few minutes ago. That interrupts the natural flow of a conversation. And like I said, there's a part of your brain that doesn't get that. It doesn't get it. It's not an autistic thing. It's not an Asperger's thing. It's an everybody thing. In many ways, I wonder if the reason the internet is has an I forget what has like a larger than normal population of people who like have Asperger's, are autistic, like thoroughly on the spectrum as opposed to like maybe a little bit, is that it mimics the way the people with autism experience social interaction. Because the flip side is this. If I text you and don't hear back in 30 seconds, I'm wondering why you don't like me. Because if someone took like 30 seconds to a full minute to respond to something that I said in person, I'd be like, oh, you don't want to talk? Yeah, that's the flip side. Because I'm so used to talking to people, like the delay in internet communication is sometimes really irritating and upsetting. And I got to remember that that's not how it works. It don't work like that. It ain't like a real conversation. It's not like a face-to-face conversation. It's not even like a conversation that you have over like video chat. Another thing that I think internet communication does that kind of interrupts things, because there are a lot of things about social interaction that people don't think about. They happen, but people don't think about them, and so they don't really notice. You don't really notice it until you really decide you're going to examine it. For example, like you meet someone on the street. And they like, hey, what's up? Oh, hey, man, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Like 3 lines of small talk. You ask them what they're doing. And one of you says something like, oh, I'm going to the comic shop. Or I'm going to the head shop. Or the weed store. I'm going X. And you're walking there. And if the other guy got nothing to do and you like each other, they'll be like, oh shit, you know what? Is the new X-Men out? The new what? Let me go with you. Yeah, or you might be like, hey, you want to come with me? Like, yeah, sure. Do you mind if we stop off at 7-Eleven? I need to get cigarettes and booze, or probably actually like Gatorade or soda, but something like that. Can't do that over video phone. It's harder. You can't walk and do something. So it's this dumb part of your brain that kind of gets trained to think, oh, well, I can't do anything with this person. Socialization is something I do in front of a camera. I got to be in my room. The mic's got to be on. There's got to be a ring light. Now, of course, the thinky part of your brain knows that that's ridiculous. But deeper in that, instinctual, more emotional part of your brain that you don't really control that. You can't control that well. It's telling you, it's trying to fill this unusual situation with something it understands. Because it's trying to contextualize it at the very least. And so instead of going to like the last time you hung out with this person and you just changed your plans on the spur of the moment and did whatever, it goes to another place. A place where going somewhere with something had an expectation other than getting there. Your parents. Something like that. Yeah. How do you really get to know a person without being face to face? Yeah, you actually get over that fear and say hello. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's primitive. It's so primitive, non-humans do it. Birds do it, dogs do it, cats do it, animals do it. Vocalize. See each other and vocalize at the same time. Learning how to get physically comfortable with another person in your space. I understand like a lot of people like have legitimate reasons why that's difficult. But I think the majority of people is simple unfamiliarity. Yeah, for myself, there's going to be a delay because I'm half a world away usually. Yeah. But like, think about like how things go, through the internet versus when you meet people in public. Because this because one of the things that gets like frustrating is, at least for me, is that I'm so used to being around a lot of people, that I don't think a lot of people understand I think we're losing our right now. We're losing touch with our social instincts, and that's not good for us. We're social animals. Like, just for example, just because you're autistic doesn't mean you don't have that same need for socialization. Autistic people aren't robots. They're still people. They just have a hard time understanding subtle social cues. I think this is why anime is also so popular among autistic people, because the emotional beats of anime are so enhanced, they're hard to miss. They're easy. It's easy for people who have autism to pick that up because it's so exaggerated. Because they may not know what a means, but they know what a what? Like they know what, like that's obvious. Even most autistic people kind of get that. They may not know how to react, but they may not have the reactionary instinct, but like they know. The thinky part of your brain knows it. You don't have to rely on instinct. John Smith says, I go to a Doctor Who society meeting. It could double as an autistic society meeting. Yeah. Because like I think like one of the reasons a lot of autistic people like science fiction is because it's like a puzzle. But because of the nature of sci-fi, the way the pieces go, you have to be walked through everybody. As like the nature of science fiction is that the audience needs to be walked through how things work because it's got to make logical sense. You know, it doesn't have to be real. It just has to make logical sense. You know, I think that's also why they tend to like Star Trek, because they would explain shit to hell and back. You know, it's like that. It's like the that Futurama bit. Like, well, on the show Star Trek, someone would give a complicated explanation and then explain that with and then demonstrate that with a simple analogy. Yeah. If we flow in the reverse tachyons into him, that should weaken his electromagnetic quantum structure, like putting too much air in a balloon. You know, like, hey, Judah, what's up? So, how does this relate to Babylon? Well, a lot of the game is very centered around subculture, counterculture. It's something we don't recognize. It's something that we either have less of or it's much harder to recognize. You know, a lot of people would be like, oh, if you're all individuals, why do you dress the same? And like, it's like, well, first of all, there's a difference between an aesthetic and a uniform. Like, not everyone in a white suit is a stormtrooper. You know, not everyone, you know, a leather jacket is not a uniform unless you're all wearing the same leather jacket. Plus, a uniform is everything. It's from toe to tip. Like, if you can't see the difference between individual goths, then you don't see, and you lack the ability to recognize individual soldiers. Hey, Jack, as someone with autism, you're more into fantasy settings than sci-fi. Yeah, I get that. I understand that. Why do you think that is? Like, I'm curious. But there are some big aspects to counterculture. One of them is drugs. That's a big aspect. That's always a big aspect of a counterculture. Countercultures tend to revolve around drug use, and they will usually gather around a few specific drugs. The other is sex. Sex and sexuality. Because it's the thing that you're always supposed to have covered, that you're kind of supposed to veil it, you know, in public among other people. It's natural that a counterculture would do the opposite and broadcast it. And a counterculture is interesting because it broadcasts that as a genuine desire for social and physical intimacy. Like it's not it's not purely performative. You know, in a counterculture, it's something that you feel in your bones. And unless you're straight edge is not counterculture. You know, if you don't do these things, if you don't do sex and drugs, you might still be part of a counterculture, but that counterculture is not going to be defined by being straight edge. It's not radical enough. It's not radical enough. It's not cool enough. It's not sexy enough. You know, that was one of my problems with straight edge, because you'll notice that, like, straight edge very easily starts going into patriarchal territory quickly. It quickly goes into that. You know, it gets this weird, it goes into this weird purity culture thing fast. You know, I remember when straight edge was, I remember Fugazi. You know, I remember Fugazi when Fugazi was what defined straight edge. You know, and that was no alcohol, no drugs. Then it started to include sex. Then it developed into an attitude of superiority when surrounded by people of the subculture they were imitating. I don't think, no tobacco either. Yeah, I don't think Fugazi intended any of that extra stuff. I think he was literally just talking about drugs. He was talking about drugs and being a vegetarian. Possibly even vegan, although that word wasn't popular. That word wasn't in popular use when Fugazi first happened. Let's see. Tango Jet says, I think I'm nervous about talking to people since I usually info dump and I feel like I might annoy the other person I'm talking to when I get too excited about an interest. Get in the habit of asking them about something. You can kind of shortcut that by remembering that you're supposed to ask them questions about themselves. You know, because the info dump itself is not always a problem. The problem with info dumping is not letting the other person talk. Like, that's what makes it super irritating. You know, so if you can get around that, you know, just by making sure here's a good test. If you start to think in your own head, oh man, have I been talking for too long? Just assume the answer is yes and then ask them a question. Don't stop talking, just ask them a question. Let's see. Nosferatu's getting remake. What are your thoughts? Well, it's been remade a few times already, so why not again? Isn't it the guy who did The Witch? Bob Eggerston? No. Robert Eggers. It was Robert Eggers. Um, as you can tell, I'm a very quiet person. No, I think Cute Little Cat Girl. I think if there was another black and white movie, the two black and white movies I would love to see remade are Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Metropolis. I would love a big epic remake of Metropolis. Love it. I don't know if we need to redo The Man Who Laughs. I think that was kind of perfect. And my problem with London After Midnight is because that's a lost film. Any remake is gonna be sitting in the shadow of that legend, and there's no way around it because you're always going to be wondering what that original would have been like. Or what it was like. Yeah, there was a Japanese animated adaptation of Metropolis. It was pretty good. It was done by a dude who did Astro Boy. Yeah, the anime version's really good, but I mean, like, I want the big. I want the big. That's what I do want, like a big Hollywood version of. You know, particularly if you do a little old school. And I don't mean like black and white. Like, no, I want it to be like full color, really extravagant, you know, to the point where it's like kind of ridiculous. Like a Tarsum Singh film. You know, if Tarsum Singh said, yeah, I'm going to remake Metropolis, I would totally be there. Same thing for the guy who did Blade Runner 2046 and Dune. If that guy said he was going to remake Metropolis, I would totally be there. I'd have to see it. Ooh, what if Guillermo del Toro did a London After Midnight remake? Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, that could work because Guillermo del Toro himself, his aesthetic is so his own. That it would immediately read as a tribute to a lost film. And I think that's how you would have to do it. You would have to go in with that in mind. You know, like, what is this? Oh no, this is my tribute to the love of the original London After Midnight, which is lost. You know, do the Tenacious D thing. This ain't the greatest song in the universe. It's just a tribute. You do that, and if Guillermo del Toro did that, I think that would be amazing. Nah, no point in remaking Haxan, man. We already made The Witch. Yeah, the Werner Herzog remake of Nosferatu is good. It is awesome. Hey, Vinar, Cody, what up? I don't know what happened to the original script, what the original script of London After Midnight is. I know that the plot is a guy pretends to be a vampire in order to catch a murderer. And I think if Guillermo del Toro did it, there'd be a 50% chance that in that world, vampires were real. I think the way I would rewrite it for someone like Guillermo del Toro is that, you know, our main character pretends to be a vampire to catch this killer and discovers vampires and werewolves are real. And then teams up with a vampire or werewolf in order to catch the killer. Sort of like a horror version of Batman. Little bit. Yeah. Yeah, like a bit, yeah, because there's a bit of Deflator Mouse in the plot of London After Midnight. You know, I don't know. Like, I feel like Batman is the remake of Deflator Mouse. You know, just kind of straight up. Like, I feel like Batman was kind of was kind of ripping that off already. You know, basically put Deflator Mouse and fucking, you know, The Man Who Laughed together, and that's Batman the Joker. You know, you just make The Man Who Laughed evil. And it does suck that we didn't get his version of the Mountains of Madness. Hi, kitty. Oh, there's cat butt. Do you want to go out? You look like you haven't made up your mind, dude. Come, minion. Go off into the night and kill. Little bastard. Yep, the Bat, aka Deflator Mouse. Yep, because Der Fledermaus literally means the bat in German. And it's a German impressionist film. Oh, Del Toro's versus Frankenstein. Holy shit. Holy shit, that would be amazing. You don't know what depresses you more, listing Guillermo del Toro's canceled projects or John Carpenter's canceled projects? I know. John Carpenter was going to do Creature of the Black Lagoon. So was Del Toro. Like, Del Toro was too at one point. Like, he was gonna straight up remake Creature from the Black Lagoon. But he kind of ended up doing that with The Shape of Water. You know, he kind of did that with The Shape of Water, except like, you know, the creature gets the girl at the end, you know, like, man, yeah, the Mountains of Madness. Like, I think that's the movie he should try to do with Ayala, the director of True Detective season 4. There has been a remake of the Golem, actually. I believe it's on Netflix. I believe it's called Golem. You know, it's a very different kind of movie because, like, I think the original Golem is only like 30 minutes or something. Oh no, we'll see. The third Gollum movie is like an hour and 15 minutes. So let's see, how long is the original? Oh no, that was almost 2 hours. Okay. I think it's a better way to say is that Nick Cage is Doomslayer on acid. I wonder how an H.P. Lovecraft adaptation would be today if they used. Oh, dude, you don't have to worry about that. You can see that. It's called The Color Out of Space. You know, it's Richard Stanley's The Color Out of Space. That movie exists. And let's not forget all of the Roger Corman movies. Oh, sorry, not Roger Corman. Fucking. God damn it. I fucked it up. I fucked it up. Stuart Gordon. Stuart Gordon. Don't forget all the Stuart Gordon films. Like, he adapted Lovecraft constantly. Yeah, like those movies exist. There's also a really good one called The Empty Man, but I'm not going to tell you what story it adapts because that's the twist. Annihilation was a take on the same basic concept as Color Out of Space, but instead of a color, it's a pattern. But yeah, that until the Color Out of Space was made, the film was made, Annihilation was felt like it was going to be about as close as we were going to get to an adaptation of Color Out of Space. But then the Color Out of Space adaptation happened, and it's amazing. Oh, The Unnameable. Actually, my favorite underrated Lovecraft film adaptation is probably The Resurrected, which is an adaptation of The Strange Case of Charles Dexter Ward. Yeah, Underwater wasn't really an adaptation of Call of Cthulhu, but Cthulhu is in it. Oh, that's right. And then there's In the Mouth of Madness. The adaptation is... Oh, you mean Stuart Gordon's Dagon? Yeah, it's Dagon. Dagon is great. That's another great Lovecraft adaptation. Really faithful. They just moved it to Spain. And added sex. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, like, so many people have seen Stalker. Like, so many really good directors have seen Stalker. No, it's a really good film to take inspiration from. You know, it's a great example of a film involving something unknowable where no one knows what's real or not. The Go Tanabe version of The Shadow over Innsmouth. I don't believe I have. Oh, it's a manga. Oh, he also did the Call of Cthulhu. Ooh. Oh, this stuff looks great. Oh, he also did The Hound. Okay. Ooh. Ooh. This looks great. Oh, and The Color Out of Space. And At the Mountains of Madness. Oh shit, he actually illustrates Dagon coming up from the deep. Oh, that's awesome. We don't usually get to see that part. Ooh, I'm gonna have to see if Oh, he also did The Shadow Out of Time. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, the Shadow Out of Time, the Call of Cthulhu, the Color Out of Space. Um, the Hound. Damn, this looks really good. This stuff looks really good. Oh shit, and they're all like bound up. They're all bound like journals. Oh, that's clever. Oh, that's clever. Oh, he also did the Haunter in Dark. Ooh, great version of the Elder Things. Man, see, like, this is the stuff that, like, this is the stuff that, like, AI is not going to be able to do. Like, this is why you're still going to need artists. This is why you're still going to need artists. This is why artists will always be better than AI. Because I wonder, like, because I have my doubts about AI. AI may be able to make realistic looking, like, short videos that have, like, no cuts. But you're still going to need someone who can tell a story. Oh, were Herbert West and the narrator in a relationship? It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. It's clear that Herbert West is jealous. But he could just be being narcissistic. Which is a thing that we know fucking Herbert West has. Yeah, they've actually gotten like AI video to work really well. But despite I'm hoping it hits a similar technological brick wall. That's some other things that people were worried about would do. The photograph did not destroy painting. It didn't destroy illustration. You know, it's arguable that Photoshop destroyed photography. Because photography used to have a very, very vaunted space in the culture. But drawing and painting are still around. People still do that. People still go into that field because it can create things that you haven't seen. You just found out the Channel Awesome website is gone. Now jumps to their YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm not surprised. No point in having a collaborative website when you got no collaborators. But yeah, like I'm hoping that AI everything kind of runs into that same problem, which is, well, sure you can do this. But is that going to really be what people want? Even the people paying money. Because my instinct, given the way the workflow tends to go, the company will make their computer-generated image or video, and then they'll want a slight change. Someone will want a slight change, and then they're going to run into trouble. You know, I think it's still gonna put a lot of fucking people out of work. But at the end of the day, I don't know. CGI didn't destroy practical effects. It changed them a lot. It didn't get rid of them. Because it turns out it's still easier and because it turns out it's still quicker, easier, and cheaper just to put something in front of the camera. You know? CGI, you know, it's good for some things, but not others. And I think the limitation of AI is that you're not going to be able to change things. You're not going to be able to change things or ensure that something looks the same from one angle to the next. You know, that's going to get way harder. Yeah. It is it is kind of set in stone. Unless you're willing to go back and do the old school thing of manipulating things frame by frame. Because the limitation of procedurally generated is that it's different every time. It's slightly different every time. People get to start realizing, oh, it's just easier to just put a guy in front of the camera. And people are like, well, what about video games? And I'm like, yeah, there could be a lot to say with that. But it's going to continue a problem that a lot of video games already have, which is, well, so many of them literally look the same. And those are the ones you don't remember. You don't think about them. Like, for example, if you're not familiar with the Call of Duty games, how would you tell them apart from any of the other games that are just like it? Because they all look the same. Like, you kind of already have to be in the know in order to see any difference. So visual distinctiveness is like that's chucked. It's chucked. It's out the window. And that's what you're going to see with more AI involved in video game production. A lot of things that look the same. AI now allows for slight changes to an image, but you isolate parts of the image. Okay. So you're still going to need map painters. Yeah, but are you going to be able to do that across different shots and make it look uniform? Maybe. Yeah, actually, the thing that the thing about AI, about this generative AI video, is that we're not going to know what's real news, what's real footage anymore, what's real news footage anymore. Just period. Like, the ability to distinguish authentic video from AI video will require experts. Now, how long do you think it's gonna how long do you think it's gonna be before you see like Biden literally sacrificing a child to Satan in a realistic looking video? Yeah. No, I haven't gone back to Yuppie Psycho yet. But yeah, that's my worry. That's my worry because you know it's going to happen. You know, it'll happen. Shit like that will happen, and there will be a lot of it, and it will happen suddenly. So the first 2 or 3 are going to get by everybody. Nah. Don't know what to tell you. You know, I don't know what to tell you, and I don't know what to say because it's all fucked up. Yep. Oh, hey, Mitch, what's up? Yeah, people are already making pictures of Donald Trump kneeling in a church praying. Hey, what's up, man? Do you want to actually, Mitch? You got like an hour or something? Because like it was a conversation I kind of wanted to have about sexuality in TTRPGs, but like I'm the only one. I would like to have someone to actually talk to about that that's actually like involved. Oh, it's your birthday. Oh, okay. Survivor Street, Muppets Meet Corporate Dystopia. Oh, geez. Oh, I don't know if I can take that. I don't know if I can take that. That might be too much. All right, Joseph, you take care. All right. I gotta. Oh, you can be ready in 15? Yeah, sure. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Just be on. I'm gonna take a. I have to use the euphemism. I have to use the little Satan's room. So tell you what, we'll go to intermission. And we'll set up the Zoom call. And I'll give you the link over Discord. All right, so we'll be back, and when we're back, we'll be with Mitch. We'll be with Mitch, creator of Necrobiotic TTRPG, and we'll be discussing stuff related to that.
Please report to the dance floor.
small to make a fuss about it. Did something foul? Hey, what is the point of losing sleep about it? See you later, hip and now, hip and now. See you later, clown man. We dance underneath the radar. We live underneath the power. When you live underneath the radar, there's no way that you're ever gonna get by. We kiss underneath the searchlights, and we live underneath the power. When you live underneath the radar, there's no way that you're ever gonna get by. So just too small to make a fuss about it. Did something foul? Hey, what is the point in losing sleep about it? See you later, hip and now, hip and now. See you later, clown man. We dance underneath the radar. We live underneath the power. When you live underneath the radar, there's no way that you're ever gonna get far.
All right, we are back, and we've got Mitch with us. Say hello to the Slut Pit, Mitch.
Hey, how's it going? Good night, everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for the people who don't know you yet?
Yeah, so I am Mitch. I have been doing like TTRPG stuff probably I think since 2017, 2016. It's all a blur now. But I started off in marketing and now I do writing and production of TTRPGs. Um Initially working with like Helm Gas, who produced Cult, and Black Void Games, which did Black Void. Recently, it's been Necrobiotic and Chew, the role playing game. And of course, a couple other titles that are kind of like slowly moving ahead, but slowly.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and the Chew TTRPG is based off of the graphic novel, right?
yeah. I'm really excited about that. It's weird. But yeah, I think that's gonna release like at Gen Con.
Yeah,
Is our hope.
that's all about people who get clues by eating it's detectives who learn things by eating things, and this includes like
Yeah.
people.
And other food related powers. So it's a very like it was a perfect comic for me because it was the marriage of comedy, dark comedy, but also like these horrific emotional moments. And so a lot of times you almost get whiplash by the differences you see on page by page, which just it spoke to me. I really love that comic. It's probably the first comic I ever read from like first volume to the end,
Yeah,
and then finished it several times.
yeah. Like that's actually one of the things. I actually think that while the art of our industry is not necessarily safe from AI, I think the rest of it is.
Mhm.
Also, I'm gonna be really honest. In today's atmosphere, I would not want to be the one who fucking used AI art in a role playing
Yeah.
game. Like that would just be death.
And I that's kind of one of the scary aspects though is once AI gets to a place where it is hard, like really hard to detect, then that's just kind of opening up floodgates
Well,
that,
that yeah, that's the floodgates to Running Man.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
that's the scary part. Maybe not like the live killing game show, but like definitely the movie part where we can make anything look like anything.
Yeah. And even now, like you see like animations and stuff, which look pretty cool.
Yeah, some of them actually do look pretty good, but like one thing that I have noticed is that you can't replace writing.
No,
You
not yet at least.
No, because
Ugh.
it's because it requires a human being at the helm to give it a tone and a feeling. You
Yeah,
know,
and I also think like people are using the word AIs for like the art and stuff like that. And I don't think we're actually like at like a real artificial intelligence.
Oh
Like,
no.
yeah. So I think it's more machine learning and algorithms
Yeah,
and
I'm
stuff like
I'm more
that.
worried
So
about like Wag the Dog and Running Man than I am like Terminator.
yeah,
You know.
exactly. When you're
Yeah.
just kind of like you're in society, you don't really know what to do because computers and AI has just taken up all the fun stuff to do, which is the creative and the unique things that you hope that only humans could do. But I'm sure eventually they'll be able to do it. But they
Yeah,
shouldn't.
yeah. I don't know. I don't think they should. I think there's something like so intrinsic to the human experience that
Hmm.
if a human being is not truly involved and at the helm, it it's hollow. It feels hollow.
Yeah, and I
You
I
know.
think you kind of see that with I feel like I'm gonna throw Disney under the bus because I know we were
Oh
talking
no, go
about the
for it.
Marvels. We were talking about the Marvels earlier on, but like a lot, the original stuff, the first waves of the MCU heroes and stuff were really interesting, and then I think they got too formulaic, and just when you put in a formula and are no longer like taking risks and trying to like speak a certain form of truth, then people just stop watching and they can
Yeah.
feel that kind of that's a formula. You're just kind of putting in X's and Y's in order to produce this thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And
yeah.
and 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 generative AI will be pretty good. Will be pretty good at that. But like at that point, you're really only gonna get like mockbuster levels of writing. You
Hmm.
know, you're not even gonna be able to get the blatant ripoff level of writing.
Hmm.
Because making a ripoff means that you requires you to deviate.
Yeah,
From the original. So it's a lot like the original, but not quite, like legally distinct. And I don't think that with AI, you're going to be able to like,
have that.
have
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
it's just going to do either something completely random or so close to the original that everyone's going to be like, what? Oh, come on.
Yeah, well, one of your fans just asked about Wish, and I have not seen it though. I've read the articles and stuff concerning it, and yeah, I don't think it was AI written, but I definitely think they followed a very strict Disney formula, which has
Oh,
worked in the past.
oh yeah. Well, it's like they used a formula that worked in the past, but didn't understand why it worked
Yeah, and
because
they
it's a
didn't put enough.
really bland movie, and you're just like, come on, man! Like, what makes Beauty and the Beast and the Little Mermaid like part of the Disney Renaissance? It's the everything else.
Hmm.
It is the character of Ursula. It is these really big musical numbers. It's stuff like that.
Yeah,
Wish
and
is
it's
just
like
just kind of
it's odd and weird, and it's just too generic. Like that, I feel like they just
yeah.
they didn't stretch out and add any
Oh,
color
just make the lead
whatsoever.
just make the lead character black. That's enough, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, and that's kind of been
I don't know, man. I don't think
I
that
think
was
that.
enough. Should have gone farther. You know?
Yeah, and I think that's also like one of the issues with like the like this like era of the Marvel stuff and probably like some other movies where it gets into this culture war where the people creating it are afraid that the movie is bad because of the inclusion of like minorities into the
Oh,
film.
yeah, yeah, and it's not
Um,
that at all.
yeah, like
You
I'm
know.
sure it affects it. There are people out there, but it's also like if you make a bad movie, it's still a bad movie, right? You
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
just.
yeah. A mid movie is still a mid movie.
Hmm.
I wouldn't actually say any of the Marvel movies are actually flat out bad. I
Ooh.
think the one that I am like, that's the lowest on my list where I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, this is the low bar. Like this, you better not go any lower than this. That's Iron Man 2.
Ooh, that was pretty low.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't
I
say
felt
it
like the
was.
third.
It wasn't worthless,
Yeah, I
but
felt like the third Thor movie was pretty bad.
oh, you did what?
When I
Ragnarok? I loved
No,
Ragnarok.
Ragnarok was good. I think that's number two, which I think
No. Ragnarok was like the third one.
it was. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you're
it's
right. You're
Thor.
right.
Then it was
Two.
Thor: The Dark World, which
Yeah,
was pretty mid. But at
yeah.
least it was
It's
but it was a coherent story, which it has above Iron Man 2.
Yeah, 2 and 4, I think I did not like at all. It was one, the first one had its, the uniqueness of being like one of the first. And then, Thor Ragnarok was really interesting and cool. I think the second one I just completely blanked because I did
Oh
not
yeah,
like it at
it's
all.
not it's not super memorable.
Yeah,
You
and then the
know,
fourth one, at the end of it, I was like, this is
I actually liked the fourth one, but it's not as good as Ragnarok. You know,
yeah, I
it's one of those. They had a great villain and a great guy playing him, but there was just something about like the last 20 minutes that like
yeah.
really felt like it dragged, and I don't know, I can't actually detect what it is. There was just something where it it felt like it felt like it should have been bigger. Like
Yeah,
there should have that there was something that should have been a little bit more flashy near the end, and with the with the exception of seeing Infinity itself,
hmm
that kind of became it wasn't there was something about that like last like 20 minutes of the film that kind of felt like it was a step down even from the previous rest of the movie. Like I don't know what it was. It just wasn't as exciting, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I think, and I'm pulling from like, because one of my hobbies is listening to critics concerning like a lot of films, especially like the Marvel films. So
Oh, okay.
those
Yeah, I
are
don't
kind
do
of like
that no
a
more.
phenomenon. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't do that anymore, you know?
I really enjoy it, though I try to keep an open mind. Like there are some parts where I'm like, I really like this film, and I think there's a difference between like liking a film and saying like this is a good film and this is a fun film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's lots of movies that I'm like, this is a bad film, but this is fun. I've enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. There was something about Love and Thunder that it did kind of peter out at the end, and I don't
yeah.
really know
I
why, because I'm like, it's not the plot. The plot's fine, but there was something about the way the
It
story
was
was
the
told.
execution and
Yeah.
pacing, I think. I think because it was still Taiki,
Taika
right?
Waititi, yeah. It
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
It was.
And I think he nailed it for the third one, but for the
Yeah.
fourth one, you had this weird like he's really good with like quips and humor and stuff like that, but I haven't really seen him do like an awesome job with like serious moments. And I think the movie struggled finding like a good pace, like letting the moments that are supposed to be sad, without
Yeah,
like
I would
quip being entered in.
yeah, I think you're on to something there.
This was a lot of tough
I
things.
think
I
you're
mean, the main
yeah,
villain,
like
like, ugh.
yeah, you
And
know.
then the cancer and like
Yeah,
all
yeah,
like there's a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of
It's
tough
really
stuff.
heavy. Like it's got a lot of really heavy stuff, and so yeah, you might be onto something. That might not actually be something he's not as good at.
Yeah, and I'm trying to
Um,
think like, if he's ever done like a serious film that like didn't, I feel like
yeah,
a lot of his stuff is it's humorous and it's comedic. Um, but yeah, having those serious
yeah.
moments.
Maybe it's one of those we can't all be James Gunn kind of things, because like
Yeah,
James Gunn
exactly.
is good at all of it. He always has been.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love to point out is that James Gunn started in Trauma.
Mm.
You know, the Toxic Avenger, Tromeo and Juliet, Terror Firmer. Like he started out in that stuff where it was just complete fly by the seat of your pants, sink or swim filmmaking. And one of the things he says was a big deal with him working on those movies was him going, oh shit, I can't afford to hold back.
Yeah.
I can't afford to. There's not enough time. There's not enough time. I just have to shoot from the hip constantly and go with my gut because we need something on that page. And we need it in an hour. We need it now. So I can't be sitting there like worrying about everything, which is of course an impossible task.
Yeah.
But like just that stress of, oh my fucking God, I just gotta do this, put him in the mindset of just going with his instincts.
Yeah, and I think movies are like food. And I definitely still want to talk because I know cute little cat girl was talking about Venom versus Carnage, which I want to talk about that. But if you can think of like all the food that's like everyone has enjoyed, internationally, most people have had a McDonald's burger.
Right.
Papa, all these things that like spread throughout the world, no matter where you are. And we all agree, like, they're tasty, they're not good though, right? We're not like we would much prefer something, else, but I think just
Yeah,
the
it
same
can't be
with
McDonald's all
movies.
the time.
Yeah, and that's with movies too. Like the more it has a broader appeal, sometimes you're like, I think the broader appeal makes it a fun movie, but also less of a good movie because just that kind of it almost feels like a franchise when it's presented without any like risk.
Well, yeah, and I definitely think that Venom, I think Venom Total Carnage really should have been an R-rated film. Like,
It
it
should
should have
have.
been really bloody.
It should have been Deadpool 3 or
Yeah, yeah,
Deadpool,
yeah. It
any of
should
the
have been. It
Deadpools.
should have been
Yeah.
Deadpool levels of gory.
Hmm.
At the very
And the first
least.
one had so much promise.
Yeah, yeah, but it's terrible. I'm like that first Venom. I hated that first Venom movie.
Really, I
Yeah,
thought it was okay.
I liked a lot of things that were in it, but I thought
Mhm.
as like a total experience, I was like, this is bad.
And the ending
It
and
was
the villain.
nonsensical.
Yeah. But I did love, what's the actor's name? James Hardy, right?
Tom
Uh,
Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
Yeah,
There
no,
you
Tom
go.
Hardy was great.
He's great. Yeah, I love like his acting chops.
Oh yeah,
And his physical presence is just amazing.
yeah. Well, that's why it's one of the things that I think made Venom Total Carnage work better was
Mhm.
he's got Woody Harrelson to fucking play off of.
He's also
Because
brilliant.
that's
He's such a
the
personality.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be our Carnage, but the not just going full bore with like blood spray and
Yeah.
gore was a problem because I'm like, it's Carnage. Like you didn't go as far as the comics did. You need to go that far.
Yeah.
Those comics were actually with Carnage are actually pretty bloody.
It's in the name. Like you
Yeah.
anticipate it to be something. And yeah, I think they were just, I don't know if they were just like, I really hope kids buy Venom toys.
Yeah, which I'm just sort of
or
like,
what.
don't worry, man. They'll
Ooh.
buy it. People will buy things. People buy Freddy merchandise. Come on.
Mhm. So we're talking about GL Knight mentioned Madam Web.
That movie looked like a movie I needed to avoid like the plague.
It does. It
It
does
looks
look.
really awful.
Yeah.
Because at first I was like, who? And I'm
Mhm.
like, I was like a comic nerd, and I'm like, who? Who's Madam Web? And I was like, oh, her. Wait, she's an old woman.
Yeah.
Why is she like a hot young thing in this movie? That doesn't make
Yeah.
any
Why
sense.
Dakota Johnson?
Yeah, why Dakota Johnson? Like,
50
first of all, I don't know
seconds.
why you would want to center an entire movie around Madam Web in the first place because she's a foil. It's like it's like, oh, well, we're doing a Green Goblin movie. Why? like it's Catwoman
You
without
know,
Batman. You know, you're like,
it's weird. Yeah, it's
I don't know if that's a good idea, boss.
and certainly in the hands of companies that are trying to make money instead of make art.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, like that was doomed for failure to trying to put those two like perspectives together. Um, oh, Catgirl was curious about your thoughts on the Suicide
Oh, I
Squad
haven't
Kills
played it,
Justice
so I
League.
have no idea.
Yeah, I've only read articles about it.
I've heard bad things, so I haven't wanted to spend the $60, but that was a game I was really looking forward to.
Me too. Yeah.
So hearing negative things about it kind of makes me go, oh, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, it's certainly like wait till there's a nice Steam sale, and then try to grab it and see how it is.
yeah, right, GL. Like, I don't know. Look, I'm not saying Spider Woman as a character makes any goddamn sense. She doesn't. She makes no fucking sense. But everyone at least knows the name Spider Woman.
Hmm.
Why
Yep.
didn't we just do that? You know, like we could have
Yeah.
done that, and I'd have been like, okay. I mean, like she's at least as well known as Morbius, and they made a movie out of Morbius that was awful. But I would at least have understood the marquee value of that. Madam Web,
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, there are comic nerds don't know who Madam Web is.
And I think when you're going off of the most popular characters, you should just go with unique and interesting instead of broad appeal, which I think they
Yeah,
were trying to do with Madam Web, and so it just became just this generic weird flop with a kind of weird plot with weird motives. And
yeah,
I was watching this one critic, and they were talking about there's not much character growth. It's just kind of like action, 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 and not very good action,
yeah,
obviously. um and it just an event happens and you have watched the event.
yeah. I actually, yeah, Sony can go. Sony films can suck a fuck. You know, they're just
And what was interesting is the same people who made the last Spider-Man movie, the one with Tobey Maguire and who's the third one?
James Garfield.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
With those three, which I haven't
yeah.
watched
No
it
Way
yet, but I
Home
hear
was
it's really
amazing.
good. Yeah.
Well, I don't like. Here's the thing. I hated the James Garfield Spider-Man movies. Hated them.
Oh man, that
I
was
hated them. I was like, this sucks. You need to stop. Like this
I
is just
actually
going in
enjoyed them.
complete. Oh, I hated them.
Yeah,
I hated them.
I rate it. I mean, Toby Maguire, I can't really judge because of the nostalgia factor. So I'm gonna put him off to the side. Because I like them, and I just don't know if I can look at them again without the filter of like, oh, that was my childhood.
Yeah,
Um,
I get that. Yeah, I
yeah.
understand that. You
But
know.
Tom Holland, like,
Oh no, Tom Holland was great.
I didn't like Tom
Oh, you
Holland
didn't
as
like Tom
Spider-Man.
Holland?
Yeah, no.
I did. It
Yeah,
was
I think
like,
he's funny, but like that was it for me.
well, I liked making. I thought making Spider-Man a kid again was a good move because it
Yeah,
made him
that's right.
unlike the others.
Yeah.
You know.
It was definitely a smart, and like, obviously he's done a great job, and I really need to watch that one, the one that we're talking about. Was it No Way Home, right?
No Way Home. You haven't seen No Way
No, I haven't. Yeah.
Oh,
It's just
dude.
trying
Okay.
to find a
Okay.
streaming service that like shows the Spider-Man movies is
Well,
tough.
that would, yeah. Well, like, all right, let me put it this way. Actually, wouldn't it be Disney Plus?
So Disney Plus doesn't have the Spider-Man. I think they have the first one. Which is
Homecoming?
what? Yeah, the first one, but that's and maybe the second one, but the newer ones they don't have it.
Hmm.
As far as I've like last time I checked, when that changes, I would love to watch it.
Yeah,
Because
that.
it looks
Oh my
amazing.
God, No Way Home is great. Like,
Yeah, but
I
those were the
hated.
same people who made Madam Web. And to see such like a shift of like
Wow.
and then this gets popped out.
Oh, you could tell where the love went,
Yeah.
because like No Way Home is great. Like it made me like Richard Garfield's Spider-Man, and I hated it. I hate it when he was in his own movie. I hated it, but like, fucking, there's a moment, Richard, James Garfield has a moment where I'm like, yeah, that's how you do that scene.
Yeah,
That
like
is how you do that scene.
I've
because
seen a couple
it's
scenes from it, and it's just
because
oh,
they recreate they do a version of a scene from his
with
Spider-Man
Gwen,
run.
right?
Yeah, the one with
Yeah.
Gwen, and when it happens in No Way Home, it's pitch perfect.
Ah.
And you're just like, that's right, James Garfield. That's right. That's right. That's right, Spider-Man. You do it.
He's got this, man.
It's also really like fun watching the three Spider-Mans play off each other.
And such a unique moment in movie history to see like three different sets of
Andrew
movies
Garfield,
that
thank you, Thomas.
it was. Oh, what were we saying?
I was saying James Garfield because
Okay.
I was thinking of presidents. Apparently,
But like having like three different movie franchises coming in for that one movie, like it was such a unique thing.
It was
and
like
really interesting.
and it was so awesome to see It was awesome to see Alfred Molina again. It was great seeing Willem Dafoe again, and it was also great to see fucking dude's Electro get his due.
Yes, yeah.
You
That was
know,
nice.
to the point where you're like, oh yes, yes. I'm like, I knew it. I knew he could do it. I knew that was just a shitty movie. I knew he could do it.
Yeah,
To the point where they actually like make an allusion to that they put him in an allusion to the original Electro comic character with the big lightning bolts in his face and everything, and
Yeah.
you're still like, yeah.
Nah, I can't wait to watch it. It's gonna be.
That's right,
fantastic.
Jamie Foxx. You fucking be Electro. Be awesome. Oh yeah, now for Molino when he faces off against Willem Dafoe. That's like an actor orgasm right there.
And the last time I saw William Dafoe was The Lighthouse, so that's why I'm very interested to see like
Why'd you
how
spill your beans,
it's so
boy?
good.
Why did you spill your? I loved that movie.
It's brilliant.
And people are like, why do I need to see this movie? And I'm like, well, one, for the acting, but two, you finally get to see a mermaid vagina.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You know,
We've been
there's
waiting for a long time.
yeah, like that's good. And speaking of monster vaginas, so like one of the issues, one of the things that I've noticed in modern TTRPGs is they've become very asexual. Is probably the wrong word, but they're a lot less horny than they used to be, and I wonder how you get people back on board with being
Yeah.
horny on me in TTRPGs. Because like
that
I'm like, this is why Vampire worked so well in the 90s, but is having trouble now.
it's a lot of trouble too.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
every
having
time I
a
want
lot
to
of
dip my toe
trouble.
back in, I'm like, maybe not. Maybe I'll wait.
Well, like that latest version of Hunter was not good.
Yeah, I have it. I haven't enjoyed a 5th edition World of Darkness book yet. And even so much, it makes me want to go to Chronicles of Darkness, which is doing like Vampire the Requiem, Changeling the Lost and stuff like that.
I love Changing the Lost, but I hated all the others. Well, all the others that were remakes of the original World of Darkness, like Vampire, Werewolf.
Did you check out Demon? Demon, I really enjoyed the kind of tech espionage.
Demon was interesting, but it didn't do any of the things that I would want to do in a game called Demon.
Yeah, it was very not demon.
Yeah.
It was like a god machine type thing, which
Yeah,
was
which was
certainly not what people wanted when, when you say demon.
yeah, exactly. It was so weird, and it didn't really bring you in, because to get it you had to understand the concept of the god machine, which was already very strange.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of those ideas that was really cool, like out there in the background, but like they didn't use the god machine in Mage the Awakening, which I thought was really odd, because I was like, well, if any game's gonna deal with the god machine, it's gonna be Mage, right?
And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
no. Demon interact with it the most, strangely. But yeah, it's the Chronicles of Darkness got a little bit maybe too different with the God Machine. And then World of Darkness with like Vampire Masquerade and stuff like that, I feel got, I mean, Renegade Games, who kind of I think is a publisher.
Yeah.
It's weird seeing them produce Vampire and then Power Rangers, and you're like, these feel like they should never be
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
same
Those
house.
it's a very different brand,
Hmm.
you know. Like if they do like when they did like My Little Pony and Transformers and G.I. Joe, it was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like 80s, kind of these cartoon based role playing games.
Yeah.
That's your thing. Even though Power Rangers isn't technically a cartoon, it's still got that cartoon sensibility to it. So you're like, okay, I get it. Maybe they'll put out the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game next or something like that. But having them pick up Vampire was,
It was
I don't
weird.
know if you guys know how to market this. You
Yeah.
know,
And also it's, it's like branding, right? When you're
yeah,
trying to find your audience and stuff like that, you if you're advertising and marketing to people who like, Power Rangers and GI Joe and stuff like that, you have to market very differently from like the Masquerade people, but
yeah,
they seem to like approach it with the very same feel.
yeah. Like I would
um
have like for example, like back in something like the '90s, uh, what you would have done if you were a company like, hey kitty, if you're a company like Renegade and you took on something like Vampire, you create an imprint.
mhm.
You would be like, okay, World of Darkness stuff is this over here, and the Renegade games like kind of goes in the, recedes into the background, and you're like, okay, we're just gonna take the whole, we're just gonna own White Wolf. We're gonna
Mhm.
own the branding of White Wolf, and we're gonna go that it's we're the ones who are actually doing it, but having it be like a completely to the audience like a completely different thing
Mhm.
works better, where
Yeah, I think so.
I think I'd like that's how I would have done it, because it's too different.
It's very different, and the way you play it is very different, and it's just, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's not, it would be like, I don't know if anyone but Artal could do Cyberpunk.
Yeah, yeah, this is
I don't
fair.
know if you could do that without Michael Pondsmith. um Not even the fucking video game could do it without Michael Pondsmith. Like they still had him, in a big role. So I don't know, well, you get where I'm going with this, but I'm
Mhm.
wondering, like, one of the things I'm wondering is what caused um this shift, away from sexuality
Yeah.
in TTRPGs, because they used to be pretty horny.
Yeah, oh
Um,
yeah, definitely. The art and stuff like that. I mean, you think of Conan, I feel like that like Conan art is what I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
of when I think of the
that
old.
it was very Frank Frazetta inspired.
Hmm.
Even guys like, like Brahm, like he was doing basically he was kind of doing like in many ways you could look at him and be like, yeah, he's kind of doing like bisexual Conan,
Hmm.
with a lot of his work. They weren't the typical like kind of fantasy scenes. He did all those covers for Dark Sun, and I
Yeah,
was I
it's
was really disappointed in fourth edition Dark Sun, not just because it was D&D fourth edition, but because I
uh,
was like, yeah, it's bondage, sex, in a desert. That's the art direction of Dark Sun, and without having that, it's just another setting for D&D, and
yeah.
who cares about that?
Yeah,
You
and that's
know?
kind of one of the biggest, I think, examples is coming up on Kickstarter, Adventure Time, which had its own system. But then they were like, okay, now that it's going to Kickstarter, we're just going to use 5e,
Oh,
which, upset a
come
lot of people.
on.
Yeah, and everyone's like, Adventure Time, I don't, it doesn't vibe with that. And I
Yeah,
wish they
like
would.
no, it's a whole
Mm-hmm.
different. I could see making a system that was based on it, but
Mm-hmm.
like you're still rolling the die 20 in the attack roll. You got hit points.
Yeah,
They work
and
the
they had
same
a
way.
system that was really enjoyable when they originally like were having people play test it, but they were like, do we want to make money or do we want to make something unique? And they chose money.
I don't see how that actually helped make money though.
So
Because most of the people like the RPG, the TTRPG nerds are already on board with learning a new system. And anyone who's coming to Adventure Time outside of that is coming in fresh.
yeah.
So there's no reason not to make a new game system, especially if you were already developing one.
Yeah, I think it's just the risk involved. I think even today a huge chunk of the TTRPG like players are playing or I guess more importantly are purchasing 5e content or 5e related content, whether it's third party or directly from Wizard of the Coast. Like a lot of the money of the TTRPG
Yeah.
industry is 5e related. Um and it's just kind of, do you want to take that risk of not having those folks come at you? Because I feel like if you
Well,
slap the 5e.
are they going to come at you though?
Oh, what do you like?
Like you just make it 5th edition. Are they going to show up?
So far, yeah. Like even
Cuz I think they're showing up for Adventure Time.
oh yeah, yeah. I think they'll show up for Adventure Time, but they're also gonna pull in people who are like, I like 5e and I like Adventure Time. Instead of like if you're looking at someone who's like, I like TTRPGs or I like 5e and maybe I like Adventure Time, but if it's not 5e, I don't know if I would if I want to learn another system or even try anything outside of 5e. Um, I feel like there's still a good point for part of like the TTRPG community that are hesitant to like leave 5e. And that has changed, I feel
Well,
like in the
I
last
think
year
what
or
they're
two.
hesitant to leave is Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
You're
know,
right with that distinction. Yeah.
you know,
Wizards.
yeah, because there were a ton of people who fucking would play something like Pathfinder,
Hmm.
which is a very similar system, but it definitely has its own flavor. It definitely has its own
Yeah,
thing
especially
that
with
it
the
does.
2e remastered. Like it's
Yeah, yeah, but
it's interesting. I actually enjoyed a lot.
yeah, there are a lot of things about it I like. The biggest problem that I have with it
Hmm.
is that playing that game feels like playing Dark Souls. Not necessarily in deadliness or lethality, but that learning curve, man.
Yeah,
Where you're
yeah,
like,
it's
oh
it's a
my
lot.
God, that book is so dense. Like, the character classes are so dense that I'm like, I have
And they're
no
getting
idea.
more complex.
Yeah,
The
yeah. And
new two archetype, the new two classes, the animist and the exemplar. The animist is a very complicated class that's going to come out soon. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, okay, clearly this is a game for people who like it a little complicated. This has got, it's so crunchy. This is extra crunchy peanut butter of our TTRPGs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
It's though still not as like crunchy and like Shadowrun. I guess what they're at 6th edition now.
yeah, they're
Every
on
time
my beloved Shadowrun, like one of my favorite TTRPG systems and one of my least favorite game systems.
yeah, exactly. You
You
play it
know,
for the world, and then you just roll dice and hope that you're playing it right. 'Cause
yeah,
the rules are just everywhere, and
yeah.
they're not that great.
I was so mad when they did 6th edition because I was like, oh, because this is what we needed, another stat. 2 more stats and another stat on equipment. Oh, thank you.
Yay!
Thank you. Like, God damn it. I was like, no. The thing was, I was like, no, go back to the 6 stats. Go back to the 6. Go back to the 6 and do everything else another way, because we need all this to make sense, so that everyone knows what they're freaking doing and everyone has something to do, but
It's yeah, they're just like, hey, you know what? We'll just keep popping out editions with like sometimes very slight changes, and hope that the community just continues buying it. That's for the most part like the world.
well, so far it seems like they have,
Mhm.
like the books seem to sell well enough that they put
Yeah.
out like 12 of them a year.
There's so many.
Yeah, there's so many 6th edition books right now that I'm like, oh my God, like I own like 3 of them.
Me too.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, but I'm seeing all the ones that are coming out, and I'm like, holy shit, this is a lot.
It is a lot and continues to be frustrating. I remember running a campaign and then someone, and it was all on YouTube and stuff. And someone commented on a thing like, "Hey, I think you're running it wrong." And I'm like, I don't think, is anyone running this right? I don't know. It's always the way that it is. It's just so weird, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I'd be surprised if I
Yeah.
ever meet someone who runs it like completely right, because it just might be impossible.
Yeah. One thing I did want them to like kind of get rid of, I was like,
Mhm.
this will solve a lot of problems right here. Instead of doing the opposing roles, just have a defense.
Yeah.
Just have
Yeah.
defense values. That way you get to go like, oh, okay, so it's this minus the defense value. I have 2 successes.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
that's especially as a GM, because as the players get tough, they're rolling all their dice and they're having a fun time rolling like 30 d6s. But as a GM, I don't want to roll 30 d6s with all my NPCs every few seconds. It's a lot, and I don't want to.
Yeah. Also, I was like, if you want to limit what the characters can do in a scene, don't do all this weird, like, oh, now you take stun damage, which is another damage track. I was like, no, just have action points. Just have resource points, so that everyone's like, oh, okay, I cast a spell, boom. Like I use one of my resource points and it goes away, but like I have an ability to, between scenes, I get them back.
Yeah, and like I do enjoy the fact that magic has a physical cost, and that you could always push it, and it's at that razor's edge of
Yeah.
being super.
I
Yeah.
agree. That would have to, you should build that in, But I
Hmm.
remember one of the systems that back when I was trying to do my own like 6th edition, one of the systems that we created was called overclocking.
Hmm.
And it was basically you can push everything, but there was a chance you would break it. With magic, if you broke it, you took physical damage. Your
I
spell
always
it
enjoy those.
still went off, it still happened, but now you're taking physical damage. If you're overclocking your cyberware might break. You get this big bonus, but there's a chance it's going to break.
Which is
Same
always
thing with the
I love
cyber deck.
those. Yeah, those were always fantastic.
Yeah.
But holy heck, okay, so sexuality
So
in
sexuality in
TTRPGs.
TTRPGs, like, because I've noticed it's even it's absent even in the indie game scene.
Yeah, well, I know when Cult was releasing their TTRPG and they had those uncensored Cult books, they found it difficult to sell to US distributors, and that going on to like the local shops, because the US views like TTRPGs as I guess games, instead of
Yeah,
hobbies, and because it's games, it's usually in stores where there are like kids,
yeah,
and so that kind of like I think especially for the American or West, I guess specifically Americans, they don't do well with sexuality, and so
yeah,
they had to like censor their game.
yeah. We find ourselves in the same like conundrum that comics are in,
Hmm.
and comics, like comic books, are in a similar situation to TTRPGs as far as like market share,
Yeah.
and how that's like the movies are doing great, but like the actual comic books aren't. Even though there are more people making comics now than there ever have been.
Hmm.
So the store never runs out of merchandise, but fewer people are buying. And that's a real problem. Like that's a real problem. Um and I think a lot of it does have to do with, I know that in comics one of the big problems is that the art of the cover, not just the
Hmm.
physical, not just the painting that's on the cover, but the art of making a cover is kind of lost.
It's tough.
You
Yeah.
know, um, you can get a cover of something and have it not be representative of what's in the issue, and that's a big problem. Like that's a real big problem
Hmm.
because, like, for example, if I see like an issue with a Hulk, it's just got a picture of the Hulk on it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
Nothing super
thanks, but
interesting. Yeah.
what's he doing? Is he punching a dinosaur? Is he gonna fight dinosaurs? What's he doing? You know, or it's just like someone's face, and I'm like, yes, that's the character in the book. Thank you.
Well, that's
Why
what
do I want
like
to buy this again?
Sunstone had some very interesting covers,
Yes.
which initially brought me into the comic, and why I love it so much is like every cover is like, okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna read.
Once again, sex appeal.
Hmm.
Sunstone has a lot of sex appeal, but it's a very different type of sex appeal than was used in the 80s and 90s.
Hmm.
It's much more, I would say, feminine.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
much more
less with the
feminine.
masculine tones, especially like if we're gonna kind of divide up the perspective of like I guess like a a masculine perspective of art, of feminine, like smoother lines with the feminine, gentler curves. I think the biggest like masculine art piece I can think of is like Conan with like the
Yeah, well,
ripped, like
it's a
yeah,
good
the
it's a good example, but like even when um it's Sunstone is all about women.
Mhm.
It's all about women, and you can really feel that. Like there's a different, like for example, there's a difference between like I can never pronounce the guy's name who does that comic. Was that Sturgeon Sejic or
I totally forget,
yeah,
and I
no,
have
no,
it.
yeah, he's he's got one of those Croatian names that just makes people like not be able to pronounce it. Um, but you can tell that the tone is going to be, there's going to be a focus on the emotional.
Mhm.
There's going to be a focus on emotion here and feeling, and there's a tenderness to it.
It's
Um,
almost was it like soft core, right?
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's going to be,
you're like, oh shit, this is gonna have a plot. Like, okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's going to be okay. It's plot that involves sex scenes
Hmm.
as major as moments, but like it's actually like it's actually a story, and that's different from another comic artist who focuses on women, but it's a little bit more
Hmm.
masculine desire,
Hmm.
and that's Frank Cho.
So, woo.
Frank Cho.
I'm gonna look him
Yeah,
up.
look
See
him
what's
up.
up.
You'll recognize him instantly. You know that art is very obviously made by a dude.
Yeah.
Like there is still an appreciation for the feminine, but it's in a different way than Sunstone.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Another, so I'm not exactly sure what the fundamental differences are, but you can kind of tell. Because despite the funny thing is, despite the fact that Sunstone is all about bondage,
Hmm.
it's all about BDSM. It's not actually about domination. It's not really about the domination part. There's is a bigger focus on the submission part.
Yeah, and I think like there is I think outside the kink community there is the general perspective that, Dom and stuff is like it's just about power, the aspects of the raw I'm dominating, but there's a very like vulnerable part that's attached to the whole experience for both parties.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh
Like, well, a lot of people, even those like involved in the kink community, I don't think understand. There is a certain type of doming that they don't really understand, which
mhm,
is the soft kind.
mhm.
Where it's not about. It's hard to describe the difference, but it's not about exerting power. It's about having it.
Mhm.
It's about having it. It's like a really good. I remember there was this one scene I was involved in, where I felt there was this tacit difference between what I was doing and what you know the other
Yeah.
ones were doing, in that which was, we're there, we're on the couch, and one of the people in the conversation, was, talking about like, using, whips and paddles and stuff. And we kind of got into this like argument about what it was really all about, what doming was really about and what makes it exciting and what brings you to the point where those implements come out. I'm like, no, you have them, but you can have them, but you can do everything without them. And that's the real shit.
Mhm.
And you know, there was like, well, you know, like there's some argument back and forth, and I was like, just like, you don't know what you're talking about. One of the subs comes by, and I just go like, she's sitting there, and and this was all,
Yeah.
you know, planned. It wasn't like this wasn't planned, but it was all okayed ahead of time.
Yeah.
This kind of thing was okayed ahead of time. Where I just indicate that she should get on our fours, and I rest my feet on her. And after doing that for about a minute,
Mhm.
I'm like, who looks more powerful right now? You've got all the stuff, and you probably know how to use it. I mean, I'm not going to, you know, prejudge on that. But which one seems like they have more power at the moment?
Mhm.
You know? And what am I doing? Resting my feet. You know? And that, I was like, and that is the difference.
Yeah.
Yes, cat. And then there are just some beasts that just go,
Do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, but again, that's also a very specific thing. That's
Yeah.
also a very specific thing because, like, I've also been in situations where it was like, no, don't do that soft arm shit. Like, you know, throw me up against the wall, you know, like,
Let's roll.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, both are good, but the tone is way different.
Yeah.
The only problem I really have with the throw up against the wall is that I tend to be attracted to heavier girls, you know, and I can only like lift like
Gotta lift,
120
man. You
pounds.
gotta.
You know?
Though we're getting older, it's hard to hit.
Yeah.
the gym.
It gets a little harder, you know?
All right. Okay. Back to sexuality and
Mhm.
TTRPGs. What has happened to?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think another aspect of this that I think we would be remiss in mentioning is that a lot of the old White Wolf crew,
Mhm.
a lot of those creators, they were actually in the bondage scene. That was like part of their thing. Like,
Yeah.
Sam Kenson. Wait, was it Sam Kenson? Yeah, I think it was Sam Kenson. I know Phil Bricado definitely. You know, Phil Bricado, big pagan BDSM guy. You know, guy who, yeah, the mage line developer. I got to be honest, I thought he did a great job with Mage the
Yeah.
Ascension. I thought he was really good.
I have Mage looks really cool. I've LARPed it. I've played the TTRPGs. I have yet to completely like wrap my head around the mechanics of it, but I've enjoyed it.
It's a cool, yeah. It's a game that exists solely based on its ideas.
Mhm.
Yeah, because the magic system is garbage. You know,
It's so weird.
yeah, it's so odd, and I'm like, it's so odd, and there's no consistency among it
Mhm.
within it, and then that makes it really hard to play without having one person dominate the fucking session. Oh, you okay
Yeah,
there?
so yeah, sorry, I was responding to one of the chatters about what we're talking about. So sex and TTRPGs.
Yeah, sex and TTRPGs.
Sexuality and stuff, which,
Yeah.
uh And I think so. If we're talking about like TTRPGs that have come out like within the last 5 or 6 years that have sexual components into it, um, I would say the Genesis Rebirth, but that is no longer around because they shifted. Um,
Genesis Rebirth. I don't even
ooh,
recognize that one.
the Genesis Rebirth is done by Six More Vodka, who does they're an art studio based in Germany. Um, and they do art for like Marvel comics, as well as League of Legends, I think is like their biggest
Oh,
client.
okay, okay.
And they did a TTRPG called the Genesis Rebirth, and it is a fantastic TTRPG, one of my favorites all time. And certainly like the best quality in a TTRPG you'll ever get. But yeah, they shifted I think 2 years ago, and they just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Partly because it doesn't make as much money as like their art
Oh,
does. Yeah,
Genesis.
the Genesis.
The Genesis. I know exactly what, in my opinion, I know exactly what went wrong with that game.
Ooh, what do you think? I'm curious.
Oh, it was the pitch. It was
It
the
was,
pitch because the pitch told you nothing you needed to know.
and
It did not tell you anything about what you were going to be doing, and that's a big problem.
yeah.
That will
For
sink you.
it was that and the $250 entry into the game because you had to buy it in the slipcase, which included both of the rule book as well as the world book, and it was
Yeah,
trying to sell that at it was tough.
they tried to go too prestige with it.
They
You
did.
know,
They needed to cheapen their product, and they didn't want to do that. And so they were just
yeah,
like, "Oh, we'll just continue doing stuff for League
yeah,
of
they were going to
Legends."
have to take a little bit. Like if it's one of those, this is the kind of game where you plan to eventually make a profit.
Mhm.
It's not going to happen when you put out first book. It
No.
absolutely won't. There's
Yeah.
just too much work that was put into it. You know, too many
It was too
hours.
sexy. It was way too sexy. They needed to chill it out.
Well, I don't think they needed to chill out the sex, but they
I
needed
meant the
to.
attractiveness of the books, like the quality of them, the amount of art and stuff like that. It was a lot of money put into every book when they needed to budget and think long term.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like, okay, well, this is the book we made. This is the break even point. It'll just have to be a loss leader, because you
Hmm.
can't, like, I think $60 is way too much.
A lot of money.
Yeah,
It's a
it's a
lot. Yeah.
lot of money, and it's actually one of the reasons why I'm like, look, we're just gonna have to live with the fact that TTRPGs right now exist in PDF, and a
Mhm.
book is
Luxury.
that's a luxury item.
Yeah, and especially like uh TTRPG books and stuff should go up in price, but it can't because everyone's income isn't going up as well.
Exactly.
Um
And
and
without
it's
enough people being able to buy in, you don't
mhm,
have a player base.
yeah. And so it's just it's a very unfortunate situation
Yeah,
where there's
you were
just kind
never
of
going to
like,
be able to get
yeah,
people to pay like $100 for a TTRPG book. Wasn't going to
it's
happen,
hard. It's hard. Yeah,
you
it
know.
is. It's a tough sale.
Yeah.
Uh So sexuality and TT. So yeah, the Genesis Rebirth,
The Genesis Rebirth,
uh, cults,
Cult,
um,
but I wonder
yeah,
why
and
particularly
both
the
European,
indie.
both European.
Yeah, because in Europe that doesn't sink you.
Yeah.
That doesn't have, people don't get mad if
Hmm.
there's sex in print media in Europe.
Yeah.
People were actually asking, like the guy who did Sunstone,
Hmm.
like, how do you, make a living doing this kind of content? And his answer was, I live in Europe. I live in Europe and they don't mind. And that's not,
Yeah.
this isn't a problem.
It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. It's just You can be nude. It's chill. It's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. It's okay. Yeah, you bought a smut book.
Mhm.
Oh no, like maybe your mom will get mad, and your mom or your grandma will get mad, but like other people, who cares?
Yeah, yeah. Like,
If you cared, you weren't going to buy it in the first place.
hmm
And
exactly.
I think there actually is a lot of that. I think a lot of the self censorship when it comes to sexuality is actually is artificially imposed.
hmm
Um, but like then you find weird exceptions. For example, are you familiar with a game called Vice and Violence?
Vice and violence. No, I'm not. But
Yeah.
I'm looking it up now.
Let me see if you can just go TTRPG Vice and
Vice and violence by
Violence.
Rapscallion.
Yes.
Okay, yes, eccentric
Yeah,
TTRPG.
very, very. Now obviously the guy hasn't put that thing fully on in the market yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at it, and I'm having issues trying to find a page I can look at. Um, I mean, what is that? The cartoon, the web series, that was very, very sexual.
Ogloff?
Yeah, yeah, they did
Yeah.
a. I think they had like a D&D.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
like put out a D&D supplement in the back of one of their collections, I
hmm
think. You know. Yeah, you seen Cyberpunk 2020 in the EU and they had nudity. Yeah.
Now I'm trying to like look at. I know it's fine at Patreon. It looks like, and I'm having issues trying to see like the cover without like going to the Patreon and subbing.
Yeah, let me see if I can find a link to the PDF. Da, 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 da.
Oh, now it's Carbon Pink. It seems
Carbon
like
Pink is
another
the
one.
cyberpunk one.
Mm. Well, it's also like I think that's one of the things I'm really interested when you eventually release your TTRPG is yeah, it has a lot of sexual components to it. So,
Yeah,
which would be
because
really interesting and cool.
yeah, and I'm trying to. It would. It'd be easier if I was a better artist. Like this guy's good enough that he can do one of those pictures in like an afternoon.
Yeah,
You know, me on the other hand,
it's tough.
too tough, too tough. But so I have to hire people and go through the process of like describing it. And
Which is always
luckily luckily there are horny illustrators. It's now just a matter of getting enough money to hire them all. Which is of course what the Kickstarter is really about.
Mhm.
So there's also because like there is this shift where horny art is now a lot more gender fluid, for lack of a better way of putting it,
Mhm.
which I think is very good.
Mhm.
Which I think is very good. Um, but I miss the kind of like detail and visual sensuality that a
Yeah.
lot of the 80s like RPG, particularly the covers, had, because they're all like very like Frank Frazetta and Rembrandt inspired, And so they're very colorful. Like there's a lot of detail. They just look gorgeous. They
Yeah.
just look gorgeous. And when I see an TTRPG now, I see a lot of graphic design.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's one of those things that lets you save money because if you can fill in pages with like decent graphic design, then you don't have to pay an artist to like fill those pages with very expensive art.
Yeah,
Uh,
but like I feel like you lose something.
oh yeah,
I
you
feel
do.
like you absolutely lose something. And a lot of people, one of the things that I get, I've gotten when I've shown the game to people is like, oh, I don't think people online will crucify you for this. And I was like, will they though? I mean, I'm sure somebody will.
Yeah, yeah. There's always
You know,
one very loud person or a couple of very loud people who will try to run you through the rafters, but
yeah, but like that was also like in, oh God, what was it? 2019. I was
mhm.
like, basically, Lady Dimitrescu just became a thing. And I'm like, I don't know about that because someone at Capcom said big titty vampire woman, and they were right.
Yeah, they whoever came up with that was like, "Yep, we found it."
Yeah, we
And
found it.
with
Just make her 10 feet tall, and everyone will be like, step on me, mommy.
yeah,
Like, and I was amazed at that.
yeah,
Like, I was like, there is no way, because by that thinking, there's no way that should have worked.
yeah,
That should have had the biggest backlash ever, but it didn't.
because we don't want to be stepped on. So yeah, we
Yeah,
won't.
but what did get a backlash was Cyberpunk for having that ad with a transsexual person in it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of Baldur's Gate, right?
Baldur's
Because
Gate is another great example.
and
That game
I
is
think
so thirsty. Holy
it
crap.
is the last update is an update that adds in unique kisses for everyone. That is an update.
Oh,
People spent money
God damn it.
post release of the game to have unique kisses for everyone.
Oh,
Um, and
oh,
it's
holy
like
crap.
it's the
Hold on. Have
closest.
I downloaded that yet?
Yeah, no,
I'm like,
updating it now.
I gotta see this. Oh shit. Oh shit. I'm gonna have to download that later when I
Yeah,
got the
it's like
bandwidth.
7 GB of kissiness.
Yeah.
And I'm sure other things, but who cares?
Well, like look, all right,
Uh,
look at what we're all doing right now. Like, wait, there's unique makeouts?
mhm.
Download. Quick. Gotta
Everyone
do it.
update quickly.
You
Uh,
know?
but it's the closest I think that 5e has ever like gotten into sexy times was Baldur's Gate.
Well, that's
Just
when like
through the video games and stuff like
well,
that.
that's when it undeniably happened.
Hmm.
Like, it's not explicit. Well, it is kind of explicit,
It's
but it's not.
softcore.
It's
Yeah,
softcore
I would say it's
explicit.
softcore.
You know,
Yeah.
like there's no room for doubt as to what's happening, down
Yeah,
to the point that you know how each of those characters fucks.
yeah, and you're seeing hair, in the genitals. You're seeing the stuff that you're like, okay, this is porn, right? We don't. Let's not dance
Yeah.
around this. This
We're
is
not doing like the close up on the genitals shot, but they're there.
yeah, yeah. Like this is softcore porn, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, and if you look at Larian Studios, like the previous game, which they didn't do that, but what they did do was have very intricate, I will say like literotica, like
Yeah.
the scenes that would play out just via script and stuff instead of the visuals.
Yeah, you would read the
Uh,
text was horny,
mhm,
but the
yeah.
graphics they didn't the graphics weren't as good as they were in Baldur's Gate 3 because in Baldur's Gate 3 they had like half a like
Yeah.
$500 million to work with or something like
Yeah,
that. It
yeah,
was like
they had infinitely more, and so yeah, like That is, and it'll be interesting to see because a lot of D&D players are playing that. And
Mm-hmm.
so they are going to bring those expectations and those desires now that it has
Yeah,
been
they're going to bring that
confirmed
to the
in video.
table.
They're going to bring it to
Yeah.
the table. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
that's absolutely true.
Yeah, and it'll
Um,
be I want to see it. Like I will it would be cool to even in 5e to see like more sexuality and more like put out a smut book, Wizards. Put out a smut book. Like it's call it Baldur's Sexy Gate, right? And just it's a smut book, how to do it, what you want to see, and some cool art and stuff like that. And yeah, we'll download that DLC and
yeah,
just put it
yeah,
into every
yeah, yeah,
campaign.
yeah, you know. But like, yeah, I think Thomas is right. I think it is about to swing back the other way,
Hmm.
you
Yeah, I
know.
think the video game was it was enough of a handhold to be like, okay, okay, now we're ready for the next level. Can you bring this back to the table?
Yeah, because
Uh,
because that thing wasn't one thing a lot of people got to understand. The video game the industry understands that even if the AAA industry understands this even if they won't admit it, which is Baldur's Gate 3 did not just win. It won big. It
yeah.
annihilated everybody in both the marketplace and in awards.
Hmm.
Like,
And it continues to do so.
yeah, and
It's
it's
ridiculous.
continuing to do so. People are still buying that thing. It's been like a year,
Yeah.
and it's still like topping charts. That never happens. That has
Oh.
never fucking happened in the history of video games. It's like, no, we're actually dealing with something really unprecedented,
Hmm.
you know? And that's
Yeah,
why
it's
so many
changed the
AAA,
landscape.
yeah, that's why so many AAA studios are like, I think fucking players are going to have to like curb their expectations. And the funny thing is that a lot of those studios in the wake of Baldur's Gate had resignations.
Hmm. Oh yeah, the video game industry
They had a lot of
is
resignations
losing out right now.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, because they were all the people that were telling their various studios, I told you this was the direction we needed to be going in. We
Hmm.
told you, but you wouldn't let us. And so we just worked for the paycheck,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
I wonder if in the adult video game industry, you know, the between the visual novels and a lot of like the stuff you're now seeing on Steam, if they're like, okay, guys, now's our chance, right? We just
Yeah,
have to put a lot of, you know, more gameplay and pretty much our games can be accepted by
yeah,
everyone.
yeah. And the other thing is this, because I'm
What you
like,
got?
look, don't underestimate the power of this. Gay sex, dude on dude, that is kind of written for a female audience.
Yeah.
Dude,
Look.
all I'm saying is that Archive of Our Own has more content than you could ever fucking read. And the vast majority of it is dudes fucking written by women for women. So when people are like, oh, guys just like seeing two girls get it on, it's like, you just like seeing two guys get it on. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I
We're
think
not so different, you and I.
there was I was sure it was a TV show or an advertisement, and someone's like, "Can you explain like you know the interest of men and like lesbian videos and stuff like that?" And the person was like, "Well, you know, if you like a burger, right, and I get another burger, would you not like two burgers? Like, would you not like these two things? These, it's just two of the things that you like, two."
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes
Yeah, well,
sense.
yeah, no, and it's the same instinct. There's
Mhm.
something about it. It's one of those like, it's why it's like, no, everyone in the world, a little bit gay,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Definitely. But but I think people are afraid, because the judgment can come
Mhm,
down so hard from people that you should never be listening to.
mhm.
You know, like every time I, just a brief example, guys who follow like pickup artists, because it's an entire male audience, by the way, always make me go, "You are so lost. You are so lost. You have no idea of
I
anything.
know, right?
You have no idea of anything because it's not about the other person for you.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
the
lack.
obstacle, you
Yeah.
know? That's you getting in your way. It's like, is it about you? Well, I mean, you know, sure, but it's also about that other person. And that's what I think a lot of people struggle with. Like they have uh the desire, but they don't understand that it's a dance. And it's a dance you're constantly making up as you go along, and
Mhm.
that's rough. I actually recommend trying to uh learn to dance with a partner because it gives you because there's this concept in certain forms of dance called leading.
Yeah, yeah. We have it in swing dancing. That's ballroom in general.
Yeah, yeah. Like, and it's not gonna dancing in and of itself is not gonna work for everybody,
Mhm.
but the understanding of like how you lead and how it's very subtle, it's very gentle,
It
you
is.
know.
It yeah. It is. It is way more subtle than I think anyone ever anticipates, and the amount of listening you do while dancing
Oh yeah,
is astounding.
yeah. Like, but it's not the end. But it's not. Don't worry. If you're not good at it, ain't the end all be all.
Mhm.
Because, for example, me and the Countess have problems dancing to each other because we cannot follow. So we both try to lead because there's this weird thing in our head, each of our heads, that is like, oh no, I got to be making sure this happens, and that's where we uncoordinate. We are very,
Yeah.
very, very clumsy dancers together. It is not a beautiful ballet. It is, uh, it is two ducks hitting each other in the face with their bills by accident constantly. Um, we're not we're not great dancers. We're it's
Yeah.
basically what I'm saying. But the act of learning and trying also teaches you things. You know,
Definitely.
that's
And I found when as I dance more, I actually enjoy the follower part of the dancing more than I enjoy leading, especially with like, I get to dance with people who are infinitely more skilled than I am. And as a follower, you can kind of, as long as you listen, you gotta really focus on listening. You get to do some really cool stuff.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm bad. I'm bad at following. I that's where I get. That's where my legs won't fucking do what I tell
Yeah.
them. And that's a really weird thing. It's like, for example, my hands will do exactly what I want.
It's the
Legs,
feet. Yeah.
no, no, legs don't want to obey. And I'm like, why? And it's like, my legs are good for two things: running and climbing. Anything outside of that, not so much. I'm very
Yeah. I
flexible, but like, you know, They just don't want to obey, you
I was
know.
doing the Charleston one time, and I was having a really good time. And I accidentally, while flinging my hands out, as a Charleston's a very like
Oh
flingy
yeah,
dance.
yeah.
I accidentally hit a lady who was going by me right in the tit. She was going behind me, and I Charleston
You
flick.
elbowed her.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It was right with my because it was like I was doing the back and forth, and my fingers were reaching
Oh.
out, and they were like flinging backwards as well, and I popped it, and she buckled, and I did not return to the dance floor until she left. It was it was
Ooh.
embarrassing.
Oh yeah, that the, yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
It was a good time, but
Yeah.
weird.
I have this one friend that I know, Marcus.
Mm.
Not Flashman Marcus. This is a this is another Marcus. He's a professional dancer, and he's one of those professional dancers that makes it look easy. And I'm like, how dare you? You
That's
know,
really awesome. Yeah.
like how dare you?
You're like,
Look,
you're beautiful swan. Look at me and my ugly duckling looking
I
ass.
know, I know. He's so good. You're just sort of like, God damn it. Like, and he said, and I was like, how dare you? And he was like, chorus line. Yeah. I was like, ah, you know. And the thing is we filmed. I wish I had known that because we had filmed some stuff with him, and I was like, God damn it, if I knew he could dance before we filmed that, I would have fucking done a dance number. I would have had him do a little dance
Yeah,
number,
yeah.
That'd have been great. Real
Friendship should just like, when you're applying to be like, hey, I want to be your friend, they should bring a resume that's like, here are all my skills. So that you always know. It's like, okay, now I know what you're good with. I can bring you in on
yeah.
certain crews, and heights and stuff.
Yeah. Because
Uh,
one of the
but
great
go
things
ahead.
about dance number is that you don't have to be the best. A dance number can work even if people aren't fully coordinated.
Hmm.
There's just something about people moving around semi in sync, mostly in sync to
Yeah.
music that like does it for people. Does it for a lot of people. Like my favorite example of like people dancing badly, but it being utterly riveting is the opening to Peacemaker.
Oh yes, yes.
You're
The
like,
dancing is so, oh
no
god.
one here is a dancer.
Yep.
None of them. They were like, there was one guy, there was like, the funniest thing was that there was one guy who actually was he was really good, had a lot of natural talent. Not a trained dancer, but like had
Just like
tons
talented.
of natural talent. And the coordinator was like, yeah, it's the guy who played the fat hacker. It's like that
That's
guy had
pretty
a
cool.
lot of
Yeah.
natural talent for dance, but he hadn't really been trained. But he
Yeah.
was the one who like had natural rhythm. Everybody else did not.
I hear and I forget where I heard this from, but I think the creation of that dance was either the producer or like the director's partner, who wanted to
No.
do a dance. Go ahead.
No,
If you,
no,
if you,
no. It wasn't that. Here's what it was. That that coordinator had worked with James Gunn before.
okay.
Like on some of the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. And he was like, I want to do a dance number for the opening, and here's the song. And she's like, okay, well, what did you have in mind? I want the whole cast on stage doing stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's whatever you come up with. And so she's like, so I spent about 48 hours coming up with each individual dance move for the characters. You know, it's
Yeah.
like there were 3 basic moves, you know, that everyone had to learn because it had to be easy because they weren't professional dancers. You know, had to be easy. And her litmus test was that she's married to Alan Tudyk.
Mm.
Alan
Oh,
Tudyk is
Alan Tudyk.
also not a dancer. And she was like, okay, if my husband can do this,
We've
then I know
passed
it's
it.
easy enough. You know, I know
I love
it's
stories like that.
yeah. So he also stood in for John Cena in the dance number before, you know, when John Cena couldn't be on set because he was like, you know, wrestling or
Yeah,
doing other
yeah.
shit, you know, because he was in so many movies that year.
God, he was like in everything.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
All right, so it is morning for me. I can
Oh.
do 15 more minutes and then I'm passing out. So
Okay, so
all right,
let's
we gotta solve
go over
sexuality in PG
what
RPGs.
let's go over like some of the things we've identified.
Yeah.
I think one of them is a certain there's a certain bisexuality or pansexuality, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
to modern sex appeal.
Mhm.
I also think that there is an aspect of it being playful.
Mhm. I think that goes into like how Americans view TTRPGs as a game and not
Yeah.
I guess as an art form, as like European countries, I think see it with a little bit more reverence and seriousness.
I think they see it as more like private theater.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's more about acting. Which is something that we have both gained and lost. Vampire was very good for that. The original White Wolf was very
Mhm.
good for that. Some of the newer games, I think, by trying to gamify that experience, have lost it.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to put on both the logic hat of rolling of understanding how a game system works and the more emotional aspect of
Yeah.
role playing at the same time. And you want to make that as smooth a transition as possible. And that's where the art of the game actually comes in. And
Mhm.
like I actually realized that one of the greatest things that D&D 5th did for the role-playing aspect was to leave it alone.
Yeah.
There are almost no social rules in D&D 5th.
Yeah. Social rules, but they usually don't they don't do well. And especially you're talking about that gamifying it. I feel like the gamifying it just makes me not want to touch it.
Yeah, because
Because it's
like
just too much.
yeah, because there's really only um 2 things that you need to concern yourself with. One, I'm trying to get person to do thing. I'm trying to get an NPC
Mhm.
to do thing. Do I convince them? Okay, roll. Bam. Oh, I did or I didn't. And that's kind of it,
Yeah.
you know, because like, for example, like it's not like trying to sneak by. It's trying to fast talk a guard. Fast talking a guard, you can gamify very easily. You
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I'm really," because that's the other thing. in social skill roles, the person who makes them tends to be the person that's good at them. Like, who makes persuasion checks in D&D? It's the bard. The bard is the one who does it. Why? Because they have a huge bonus. You know, hey, because if they
Yeah.
can't talk him into it, why do the rest of us even try? You know, like,
That's probably one of my biggest annoyances with 5e or even like the D20 system, like with Pathfinder 2, is if you're not trained at social stuff, then it's almost like don't talk to the NPCs. Like just talk amongst yourself.
yeah.
Don't say
Don't
anything.
don't do it. You know,
Yeah, don't. Please
yeah.
don't.
And Monster Hearts is actually one of the ones that I was thinking of when
Mhm.
it's like it has sex moves, but it's not very sexy.
It is not sexy at all. Yeah,
You
it's
know,
it. Yeah, I think the game at its core is about like emotional like relational abuse and stuff like that, and so the
oh,
sex moves are just kind of like another allegory that's part of it, which it's very not sexy. So
I think you're actually I think you're actually onto something there, which is it. Yeah, the sex moves in Monster Hearts are very, very manipulative and
mhm.
exploitative. And it that's definitely not the tone I want to take with it.
Yeah, because that's not like we want to focus on that soft core porn
Yeah. It's not
quality.
it's not it may to be told how it goes down discourages the player telling
Mhm.
because the game just told without emotional connection, the game just told you. And
Mhm.
that is not that great, you
Yeah,
know.
it's not satisfying. Um,
Yeah, and it's
it's
and the thing is I like that the apocalypse powered by the apocalypse had the sex moves, but they weren't fun enough.
yeah, it's definitely it's too much of a the game has a message and it's not sexy fun times.
Yeah, like
And I think that's what we're talking about with sexuality is the embrace of it and the fun of having sexy things as part of art.
yeah,
We're going back to Sunstone where it's like, yeah, you look at the cover, they're having fun. That's enjoyable. They're doing fun things.
yeah. The horniness is largely in the art, and maybe that's why it's fallen out of favor because the art in TTRPGs has suffered.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there used to be the bar for doing artwork in a TTRPG used to be professional.
Hmm.
You used to have to be a pro. Because if you weren't going to be able, you weren't going to deliver.
Yeah, and especially like, back then a lot of TTRPGs, like there were companies, right? And a lot of TTRPGs put out now are, they have the LLCs, but they're really just like one person.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's a lot of that, and I think for us to bear in mind is the fact that TTRPGs mainly exist as PDF right now, and
mhm.
while that is definitely a bit of a disappointment to us, to old guard, to the old guard and bibliophiles, it does bring with it a certain amount of freedom.
Mhm.
No one could tell you what you can and cannot put in a PDF other than the audience. And even
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
they can't just tell you. It has to be proven that it's not going to work because it didn't go anywhere.
yeah,
Nobody
yeah. That's
played it,
fair.
nobody bought it. Like that's how they communicate. They communicate that.
It's
Um,
yeah.
not endless hot takes.
Oh God, Twitter and social media.
I
We're
know
we're fucked as a species.
it.
Um,
It upsets me that we've made the internet a place of a complete and utter judgment.
Yeah, we've made this thing that was supposed to be about bringing people together, and we've used it to separate
Yeah,
people.
to tear people
Uh,
apart, you know.
exactly.
You know, to rip into them for no other reason than our own
Hmm.
satisfaction. You know, that's the part I find really malicious. It's like, why do people do this? For their own sense of satisfaction. That's why.
Yeah.
You know?
So going back to the TTRPGs
Yeah.
and sexuality, I ran a campaign of Cult, and I after playing the video game Lust from Beyond, which is, Cthulhu
Yeah.
meets like a very sexy uh I guess perspective.
Yeah.
Um
The
and
oh god, the sex scene at the end with the woman who has no face. Like that was awesome. I was like, "Oh
it was so
man,
cool.
this is
Yeah.
great." You know?
Uh, and it's just like, I told everyone, I was like, this is the game I've just finished playing this. I want this horror cult campaign to be very sensual, very sexy, that kind of sensual horror. Um, and it was a lot of fun. And we did some really cool things, and it was horrific too, but there was some fun moments. And I hope and wish other people can I guess have the confidence to kind of explore that in a group setting at
Yeah.
their table because it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah, well, it's kind of well, there's also like a beautiful, like kind of like Clive Barker-ness to it, you know,
Hmm.
like a little bit of Hellraiser, you
Exactly.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is not soft and gentle, but
No, it's not.
there is this glorious spectacle to it.
Hmm.
You know, because yeah, like chains are coming out of the walls on hooks, people are getting their faces ripped open. It's this beautiful spectacle
Sexy
of it.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I one of my favorite lines in one of the Hellraiser movies, um, that I'm like, yeah, this is saying a lot right here, is in Hellbound, the second one, when the
Hmm.
doctor emerges from Leviathan and he's been turned into a Cenobite and he's all fucked up looking and he goes,
Oh God.
and to think I hesitated. You know, I was like, damn, that's good.
Ugh.
You know, damn, that's cool. You know, oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering. You know?
Oh God. Now I'm gonna have to like rewatch all of those. Ah, yes. But yeah, like I think that's why I love Cult it was the most, and why I enjoy it infinitely more than like Call of Cthulhu is because there is an inherent sexuality in the horror that they
Yeah.
present, and that's
Yeah.
always been, and I think Clive Barker and all that, like why his movies were so amazing was there was it. Even I
Yeah.
feel even the thing there's an intimacy that is involved in that sort of horror
Oh,
that
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
yeah.
anything with body horror
Hmm.
is
Yeah,
gonna have that because, you know, we're talking about the insides, you
exactly. All
know?
these like vulnerable, like soft, squishy spots, like it's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, like, I still have the, first edition of Cult that has, like, the hanged angel on it.
Oh yeah,
It's such a good cover, you know?
I'm still collecting a lot. I know they gave me all the PDFs, but I'm still collecting like the physical versions of the older ones.
Yeah, yeah. I actually think the current version of Cult is the best version of that game,
I
you
agree,
know?
and
I do wish the, I forget what you call it. I wish the, it's not the combat section, but it's
mm,
it's the you know where you got two people struggling against each other, whether that be combat or something else.
yeah,
You know, but like,
the
but
kind
it
of like PvP conflict in the Power by the Apocalypse system. Um,
well, I was thinking more like the fact that like I don't know what happens in Cult if I throw a punch at somebody. Like I don't
oh,
know how to adjudicate that.
You know about like
And
like player versus player,
no, player
just
like
like
player versus
with
environment.
combat. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
any character versus any other character. Whenever it comes down to something like that, I'm like, wait, how's this supposed to happen? How's this supposed to work? Do I
Yeah,
make an attack roll and then they make a resistance roll? Like, because if
yeah.
I
Trying to
just,
figure out when those roles come into place.
yeah, what happens if we both succeed? Does that make a
Yeah, yeah.
difference? You know, um, and things like that. And because it uses the powered by the apocalypse like convention, dice
Mhm.
convention, you I'm like, no, that needs to be really, really explicit, because there's a difference between attacking and hitting and attacking, defending, and then hitting.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, it only becomes a problem when we're talking about player versus player, because otherwise, if you're doing player versus environment, you're making a roll to attack, and you're only doing like a dodge roll when the enemy is throwing back at you. So all you need is like one roll for the
Oh,
offense.
okay. So the
Side.
enemies don't dodge.
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
yeah, that's all encompassed in the role that the player has. And so yeah, that's pretty
Oh,
much
did
it.
I missed that part? Maybe they should have made that a little more explicit.
Yeah, and Powered by the Apocalypse, like conflict, like physical conflict,
Conflict.
specific.
That's
Yeah,
that was what
yeah,
I was thinking. The conflict
yeah.
resolution system.
It's
Yeah.
always been is weird. And Avatar Legends, I think, did a good job about putting a combat system that's actually interesting using Powered by the Apocalypse, but obviously you don't want that for like the cult system, which
Oh,
is like,
no. Like you
yeah,
don't need there's no such thing as like
you gotta
Avatar
die.
Legends, like you gotta account for like airbending and shit,
Yeah,
you
there's a
know?
lot of
Like,
stuff going on there.
yeah. Whereas it's sort of like, well, if I have a gun, I need to be able to fire it and theoretically kill something,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
even if every monster is immune to bullets, you know what I mean? Like in Call of Cthulhu, like you could shoot things, but the chances of you taking it down are kind of low.
Yeah, I mean, if I see Cthulhu, I'm still gonna shoot him. I feel like I need to, out of respect for him
Yeah, you
and
know.
me.
But yeah, it it also made the other worlds, the
Oh,
current edition of Cult made the other worlds.
yeah,
It
Gaia,
defined them really
Limbo,
well.
Metropolis. Yeah, they're so cool, and I'm excited to see them do more. And I keep pushing them to do like a space setting cult, because
Oh,
Event Horizon
get that Event
was my
Horizon.
favorite. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like that's one of my favorites. I'm like, I want to do it so badly. One day, one day.
Yeah.
Uh,
Man, actually, you know, if you wanted to do Event Horizon, the game that I would start with as a
mhm.
base is Free League's Alien.
Oh yeah, I love Alien. That they did such a good job
That I was so
with that
impressed. I
system.
was so impressed with that one because I was like, franchise tie-in RPGs never fucking work, man. They're
That's
always
horrible.
bad.
Hmm.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the game was terrible, you
It
know.
was. I played that a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's really bad because it's sort of like, okay, you have the Slayer who does everything, and then the rest of you just stand around.
Get your ass kicked in
Yeah,
fights.
yeah, because when they first said Buffy the Vampire the role playing game, I'm like, that sounds like a terrible idea. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, why you don't think it'd be fun to be a Slayer? I'm not gonna get to be the Slayer. I'm gonna
Someone
be
else is.
Xander.
Hmm.
You know, I'm
And
gonna
no one
be
wants to
forced
be
to play
Xander.
Xander, and I don't
Yeah,
want
it's
to
not
do
fun.
that.
I don't want to role play as Xander during the weekend.
Yeah, it's like, could I be Spike or something? I'd be a friendly werewolf, like something that could actually have an effect on the world.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not. There was also this one that same company who did the Buffy the Vampire Slayer did called Witchcraft.
Ooh,
That
I think I
was
have that.
not a tie-in game, but it had a lot of the same problems.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, because they did
Check that
like,
out.
Yeah, because I think it was a CJ Carrera.
Yeah, it is him.
Yeah. So, meh.
Yeah.
Am I wrong in suggesting it's easier to run a Vampire the Masquerade campaign versus D20? It's easier to fake.
Yeah.
Vampire the Masquerade is easier to cheese. It's easier to fudge and cheese. I'll say that.
Yeah, and like I think because of the linear like and restrictive like class systems of the D20 systems that D&D and Pathfinder are,
Yeah.
it's hard to have a character that you focus on like the social or you focus on the mental because in D20 there's so much emphasis on combat
Yeah.
that even as a bard, like you might be good at socials, but a lot of your rules are still tied up into killing someone
doing
or
damage to
fighting.
things.
Yeah.
Like doing damage to things, manipulating them.
And that's what I think I like about at least the vampire games is that you don't have to.
Yeah, well, the thing I liked about Vampire 5th was the hunger mechanic.
Oh yeah,
The hunger mechanic I thought was great.
Mm-hmm. Bestial failures. And all
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah. For those who don't know, the hunger system is in Vampire the Masquerade is actually really simple. Basically, as you do stuff, you accumulate these things called hunger dice. And what they do is they transform your normal dice into hunger dice. And everyone like uses red for the hunger die because, of course,
you gotta.
You gotta. And the number of successes you score on those determines how much of a vampire you are in that moment. So if you're like,
clever,
well, how it's like, oh, well, how many hunger dice succeeded? This many? Oh, you let the beast fucking win. You let the beast win at that point, and it does something bad. You still succeed. You still get to do your thing, but you do it as the monster. And I was like, that's cool. And it also applies to your to when you're like draining people, when you're drinking from people. So if you get too many bestial successes, like you kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Like you drain them dry and you're like, oh shit. I didn't mean to do that,
way that they did that too. And I really enjoy it. But yeah, that is it for me. I'm going to go pass out.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. We need to do this more often.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. All right, everybody. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go too. So for all you at home, thanks for joining us and listening to us yammer on. Yeah, this sexuality and TTRPG conversation has been what I'm wanting to have for a while.
Yeah.
And I look forward to its continuation.
It will always be.
Yeah, it will always do that. All right. So until next time, everybody, thank you for coming down. Remember, Satan and I love you very much. He is the little voice inside you that tells you to say fuck you to the people you hate. And until next time, Ave Satanas, Disco Inferno. And remember, Satan and I love y'all very much.